Our first story tonight is about two lifelong friends who thought they were heading to an after party, but ended up somewhere they were never meant to be. Jimmy and Ryan had known each other since childhood. They'd grown up in the same small Pennsylvania neighborhood, played on the same baseball team, and even managed to land jobs in the same city. Despite how different they were, Jimmy the loud, outgoing risk-taker, and Ryan the quiet, methodical type, they'd always been inseparable. Every year, they tried to keep one tradition alive, spending the 4th of July together. It didn't matter where. One year it was camping, another it was a backyard barbecue, but they made sure to meet, drink, and reminisce about how far they'd come. That particular year, Jimmy was organizing his biggest event yet, a 4th of July beach party on the Jersey Shore. He worked in the event business, music festivals, nightclubs, private shows, and this was supposed to be the one that put his name on the map. The lineup was huge: local DJs, influencer promotion, sponsorship banners everywhere. Jimmy called it Freedom Wave. He told Ryan, "This is going to be massive, man. Free drinks, fireworks, music till sunrise. You got to come down early." So Ryan did. He arrived that morning, helped unload crates of speakers, watched as crews built a makeshift stage right on the sand. By late afternoon, everything was ready. The sound of the ocean mixed with bass tests, and strangers were already trickling in, bathing suits under open shirts, red plastic cups in hand. By sunset, the beach was alive. The air smelled of salt and beer, the horizon burned orange and pink, and the music pulsed like a heartbeat. Ryan wasn't a party guy anymore, but being there, surrounded by laughter and lights, reminded him of easier days. Jimmy, as always, was in his element. He darted from group to group, hugging people, shouting over the speakers, shouting "Freedom Wave, baby," like it was a slogan. Every so often, he'd pull Ryan into photos or shove a drink into his hand, telling him to loosen up. By midnight, Ryan had done just that. The fireworks had come and gone. Most of the crowd was dancing barefoot in the sand, swaying to deep house beats that blurred into one another. Ryan was standing by the bar when he first noticed the two women. They looked out of place, not overdressed, but too polished for a beach party. Both in light summer dresses, both barefoot, both watching the crowd with detached smiles. One had dark hair, sharp cheekbones, and a look that could freeze time. The other was smaller, softer, almost shy. Jimmy saw them too. He leaned toward Ryan and said, "Guess we found our after-party, huh?" The women introduced themselves as Marcella and Gianna. They said they were from New York, staying nearby for the weekend, and that they knew the DJ. Ryan didn't think much of it. The music world was small, everyone knew everyone. What he did remember clearly was Marcella's voice, low, confident, and strange. Every word sounded deliberate, as if she were testing how much power she had over the room. Around 1 a.m., she said, "You guys should come back to our place. It's just up the beach." Jimmy didn't hesitate. Ryan did. He didn't like leaving his stuff behind, his phone charger, his wallet. But Marcella laughed it off, saying, "You can grab it tomorrow. We're not far." The four of them started walking barefoot down the shoreline. The music faded behind them until it was just wind waves, and the faint sound of fireworks popping somewhere inland. The beach stretched for miles, but after about 20 minutes, a house appeared in the distance. Modern, tall, glowing with soft white light. It looked expensive. Floor to ceiling windows, clean lines, and on the balcony, what looked like sculptures silhouetted against the moon. Ryan remembered thinking how strange it was that a house that big wasn't visible from the party. He'd walked that stretch earlier and hadn't seen anything but sand dunes and beach grass. Inside, the place looked like something out of a magazine. White furniture, glass tables, not a single photo or piece of clutter. Even the air smelled clean, like antiseptic and ocean salt. Marcella poured them drinks. Clear liquid, maybe vodka, maybe something else. Ryan hesitated again, but Jimmy clinked his glass and said, "To Freedom Wave," before downing his in one gulp. Marcella smiled, her teeth perfect and cold. "To freedom," she repeated. They talked for a while, or at least Ryan thought they did. The conversation drifted from music to travel to art, but everything started to blur. His vision softened at the edges. He kept losing track of time. At one point, Jimmy and Marcella disappeared down the hallway. Gianna sat across from Ryan, staring at him. Not smiling, not blinking, just staring. Her eyes were glassy, reflecting the light like mirrors. He tried to ask where the bathroom was, but his tongue felt heavy. His voice slurred. The room tilted slightly like he was underwater. Then nothing. A sudden, unnatural silence. No ocean, no music, no voice. When Ryan came to, he wasn't in the house anymore. He was lying in a patch of sand, surrounded by tall grass. The sun was rising. His head pounded like someone had driven a nail behind his eyes. He sat up slowly. His shirt wasn't his. His jeans were wet and didn't fit. His shoes were missing. Panic crawled through his chest. He looked around. No sign of the house. No sign of Jimmy. Just endless dunes and empty beach. He stumbled toward the nearest road, dizzy, nauseous, his throat raw. Eventually, he saw a small gas station across the highway. He pushed through the door, clothes soaked, eyes bloodshot. The cashier froze. "You okay?" "Man." Ryan nodded, then shook his head. "Why, I need to use your phone." The man handed it over without another word. Ryan called Jimmy's number first. No answer. Then his sister. She picked up immediately, panicked, asking where he'd been all night. When he said he didn't know, she told him she'd been trying to track his phone for hours, but it wasn't showing up anywhere near the beach. While he was still on the call, Jimmy walked in. He looked worse than Ryan. Pale, shaking, eyes wide and hollow. He was wearing different clothes too. Baggy sweatpants, a hoodie 2 sizes too big. They stared at each other, speechless. Jimmy finally whispered, "Where the hell were you?" Ryan said, "I was about to ask you the same thing." And neither of them remembered how they'd gotten separated. The last thing Jimmy recalled was Marcella leading him upstairs, telling him she wanted to show him something. After that, black. They called the police. 2 officers arrived, took statements, and exchanged skeptical looks the entire time. One of them asked, "You boys drink last night?" Jimmy said yes. Ryan said yes. The officer sighed. Probably blacked out. Happens a lot after these parties. But then the second officer said something that made them both pause. "There's no beach house down that stretch," he said. "Not for a couple miles. Closest one's under renovation. No power, no lights." Ryan swore he'd seen it. White walls, glass windows, light pouring from inside. The officer just nodded like he'd heard that kind of thing before and told them to get some rest. A few hours later, Ryan's sister called back. She'd found his phone's location. It was lying in a parking lot 5 miles inland, right next to Jimmy's. Both phones. Same spot. They drove there together. The lot was empty except for 2 parked cars and a row of trash bins. Their phones were on the ground, side by side, screens intact, no damage. It looked as if someone had placed them there carefully. When they checked their messages, things got worse. Each phone showed a series of texts sent during the hours they couldn't remember. The tone was calm, casual, like they'd written them sober. Messages to friends and family saying things like, "All good," "Staying with some people tonight," and "Headed inland for a bit." Except they hadn't sent any of them. Even stranger, some messages contradicted each other. Times didn't line up, responses didn't make sense. It was as if 2 versions of them had been texting from different timelines. Days later, still shaken, they drove back to the beach to find the house. This time, in daylight, there was one building roughly where Ryan remembered it, but it looked completely different. Smaller, older, and half covered in scaffolding. A man in his 70s came out when he saw them. When Ryan asked if 2 women named Marcella and Gianna lived there, the man frowned. "I've been living here alone for 15 years, he said. "Ain't no one else been here?" They thanked him and left. That night, Ryan went back through his phone photos hoping for proof. Maybe a picture from the party, maybe one from inside the house. Nothing. Not a single image after midnight. But one file caught his eye, an audio note, recorded at 1:43 a.m. It was only 6 seconds long. When he pressed play, all he heard was the sound of waves and a faint voice, whispering something in a language he couldn't recognize. He played it again and again, each time convinced he could almost understand it. But the last second always made his blood run cold. Right before the recording ended, a second voice whispered something clearer, something that sounded like his name. Ryan deleted the file that night. He hasn't gone back to the Jersey Shore since. And though both he and Jimmy are alive and well, neither of them remembers how they left that house, or if it ever really existed at all. Sometimes, when Ryan drinks too much and closes his eyes, he still sees it. The lights glowing faintly in the dark, the ocean murmuring outside, and Marcella's voice saying almost lovingly, "You'll love it here." Our second story tonight is about a young woman who thought she was just driving home after a 4th of July barbecue. But what followed her that night would make her question how random danger really is. Ariel had always loved the 4th of July. It wasn't about patriotism or fireworks for her. It was about ritual. Every year since she could remember, she'd spend the evening with her closest friends out in rural Alabama, grilling, laughing, watching the night sky burn with color. Her best friend Rachel, lived in a farmhouse just outside a tiny town called Benton Creek. It was surrounded by acres of open field and pine forest, the kind of place where time seemed to stop once the sun went down. That particular year, the party had been perfect. The grill hissed with marinated ribs, kids ran barefoot through grass wet with dew, and someone had set up a small speaker playing country songs over the hum of insects. By 10 o'clock, the sky was a war zone of light, fireworks blooming red, blue, and gold above the trees. The crowd whooped and cheered as one firework misfired, spinning sideways into the dirt. People laughed. It was one of those nights that made Ariel feel safe, like the world was still a decent place. She left around 10:30. Her apartment was 2 hours away, and she had work in the morning. Rachel begged her to stay, but Ariel hated sleeping in other people's houses. She promised to text when she got home. The road out of Benton Creek was dark, one of those two-lane highways with no lights and almost no traffic. The only illumination came from her headlights and the occasional flicker of fireflies by the tree line. At first, it was peaceful. The steady hum of her old Honda Civic, the rhythmic clicking of her turn signal as she passed the occasional intersection. Her phone sat face up on the seat beside her, the screen glowing with her GPS map. About 20 minutes into the drive, she noticed a pair of headlights appear behind her. It wasn't strange. Someone else leaving town, she figured. But when she checked her rearview mirror again, the lights were still there. Closer now, she changed lanes. So did they. At first, she brushed it off. Coincidence. Just another driver heading the same way. But the longer it went on, the less that explanation worked. Every time she sped up, the car matched her. Every time she slowed, it slowed too. That's when she started paying attention to the details. The car was a gray Nissan Altima, caked with dirt. One of its headlights seemed dimmer than the other, and the passenger mirror was cracked. It looked old, neglected. Ariel wasn't easily spooked, but she knew enough true crime stories to recognize when something wasn't right. She took a left onto a smaller road, hoping the car would keep going straight. It didn't. It followed. Then another turn. Same result. Her chest tightened. The world outside her windshield was black. No houses, no gas stations, no signs of life. Just trees pressing in from both sides. After 10 minutes of this, the car edged closer, its headlights flooding her rearview mirror with white glare. She muttered under her breath, "Okay, what do you want?" Her hands were slick on the wheel. Her mind started running through options. Keep driving. Find an open store. Don't stop. She glanced at her phone. 1 bar of signal. No service. That's when the car behind her flashed its high beams. Once, twice. A signal. Or a warning. Her instinct screamed, "Don't pull over." She hit the gas. The Civic's old engine whined in protest, but she managed to push it past 70 mph. The Altima did the same. The road curved sharply, and her headlights swept over a sign that read, "Benton Creek Cemetery, 1 mile." She almost laughed at the absurdity of it. Another half-mile ahead, she spotted the faint glow of a gas station sign. A cheap one, flickering neon red, barely alive. She took the turn hard, tires skidding on gravel, and pulled into the lot. The Altima slowed at the entrance but didn't pull in. It idled there, headlights still on her. Ariel's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her ears. She threw the car into park, grabbed her phone, and sprinted inside. The bell over the door jingled. A middle-aged man behind the counter looked up from a newspaper. "You all right?" She nodded, then shook her head. "Someone's following me. A car, gray Altima. It's out there right now." The clerk frowned, craned his neck toward the window. The car was still there, idling by the road. "I'll call the sheriff," he said. While he dialed, Ariel peered through the window. She could make out a shape behind the wheel. Someone wearing a baseball cap, head tilted slightly downward. The headlights made it impossible to see their face. Then, as the clerk spoke into the phone, the Altima turned off its lights. The engine kept running. Ariel whispered, "It's still there." The man nodded grimly. "They said they'll send a deputy. 10, maybe 15 minutes. But by the time the first patrol car arrived, the Altima was gone. No taillights, no sound, nothing but the echo of cicadas in the trees. The deputy, a tired-looking man in his 50s, took a quick statement. He told her the car could have been someone lost or playing a prank, but he promised to drive the stretch of road she'd come from. He told her to get home safe, then left. Ariel waited another 5 minutes inside before daring to return to her car. The lot was empty now. The night felt heavier, like the darkness had grown thicker somehow. She locked her doors twice and started the engine. The drive home was silent. Every turn of the tires seemed too loud. She kept expecting to see those headlights appear again in the mirror. But they didn't. When she finally pulled into her apartment complex, it was almost 1 a.m. She parked directly under a streetlight and sat there for a while, just breathing. It took her several days to feel normal again. Even then, every time a car followed her for too long, she felt her stomach twist. But that wasn't the end. 2 weeks later, she was eating breakfast and scrolling through local news when a headline froze her in place. 2 men wanted for armed robbery and attempted murder. Last seen in gray Nissan Altima. The photo beneath showed the exact same car. Dirt-caked, cracked mirror, same model year. The article said the suspects had been targeting women driving alone on rural highways, forcing them off the road or pretending to be broken down to lure them in. They'd struck several towns across Alabama and Georgia. Ariel read the article 3 times, her hands trembling. One of the victims had disappeared completely. Another had been found alive but refused to talk about what happened. She called the sheriff's office, gave her name, and explained everything. The deputy who answered confirmed they'd had multiple reports matching her story. But what he said next chilled her. "We got word one of the men was found dead in a wreck about a week ago. The car, same Altima, was upside down in a ditch near Benton Creek. But when we checked, there was only one body." Ariel asked what that meant. He said, "We're still looking for the other guy." After hanging up, Ariel couldn't shake the thought that maybe the night at the gas station hadn't ended the way she thought. She went back through her phone, checking photos from that night. She hadn't taken any, but her camera roll showed something she didn't remember, a single blurry image taken at 10:52 p.m., right before she left Rachel's. The photo showed her car parked by the edge of the field. Behind it, just visible in the background, were 2 figures standing in the shadows, one tall, one short, both facing the camera. Neither looked like anyone from the party. She told herself it was a trick of light, a reflection. But when she zoomed in, the shorter one's face came into focus, just enough to see what looked like a baseball cap pulled low. She deleted the photo immediately, but she couldn't bring herself to empty the trash folder. Some part of her felt like proof mattered. Over the next few weeks, strange things started happening. Once she came home from work and found a muddy footprint outside her apartment door. Another time, she woke up to the sound of a car idling in the distance. But when she looked out the window, the street was empty. The sheriff's office told her not to worry, that it was likely just nerves. But Ariel stopped driving alone at night. She took different routes, kept a can of pepper spray in her glove box, and every time she passed that stretch of highway near Benton Creek, she turned her music off and watched the rearview mirror. 6 months later, they caught the second man. He'd been living under a fake name, working at an auto body shop just a few towns over. When they searched his apartment, they found a box of stolen items, jewelry, phones, wallets, and among them was a license plate half bent, smeared with dried mud. It was hers. She hadn't even noticed it missing. The detective told her the man admitted to following her that night. He said he'd planned to rob her, but backed off when she pulled into the gas station. But when she asked why he didn't just leave when the cops showed up, his answer made her blood run cold. He said, "Because there was already someone in the car with her." The detective assumed he was lying, or confused. But Ariel remembered something from that night, the way the clerk had looked past her when she first ran inside, eyes widening slightly before focusing back on her. At the time, she thought it was just shock. Now she wasn't sure. Months passed. The story faded from the news. But one July evening the following year, as Ariel drove home from work, her phone buzzed with a notification. Kodo memory. 1 year ago today. It was that same blurry image of her car by the field. Except now, when she opened it, the background seemed darker, and where there had been 2 figures before, there was only one. Still wearing the baseball cap. Still facing the camera. Closer this time. Ariel never drove that route again.